I'm always reminding myself the reason why I choose to do what I do, and that helps me to keep moving. Go back in your mind and think, what are the real reasons why you're doing this? And the real reasons has nothing to do with how I'm getting frustrated.
Welcome back, upgraders. Congratulations. We are going to send you nearly $1 million. You can use it however you want, and you'll never hear from us again. These are the words our next guest heard on the telephone from one of the most illustrious, mysterious, and prestigious arts awards panels in the world. His story is so massive, it exploded into multiple episodes. It's the very first time for that happening on our show. Today's guest is arguably the top drummer in the world. A personal friend and colleague since before I could drive a car, legally. He started out banging the bongos as a child, running away from home for hours at a time, chasing street parades during carnival in Cuba. And fast forward a few seasons later, he is selected as the top musician in his entire country, hand-selected to teach, with yours truly, at Stanford University's famed jazz workshop. He's a fellow Grammy Award winner and a recipient the mysterious and incredible $800,000 MacArthur Genius Award. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to be the best in the world at one thing, the practice, the pressure, the stubbornness it takes to get there, this conversation is for you. We're going from Santa Clara, Cuba to a Genius grant, from kid on the bongos to one of the most respected drummers and musicians alive, one upgrade at a time. This is our episode with Dafnis Prieto. Dafnis Prieto, one of my favorite people on earth, one of my longest friends, even though I don't see you often enough, one of the people I admire the most, and probably, arguably, one of the greatest living musicians and drummers I have ever met and the world has ever seen. Oh. Thank you for being here on Upgrade Me, brother.
My pleasure, man. It's so great to see you and have this time to hang out with you and just catch up, and it's great.
100%, man. It's been many years in the making. We met many years ago, I believe, on one of your first trips to America. And, I always start every interview with a bit of an icebreaker. I've always felt that you have some of the most interesting sayings. When we're on the road or when we're hanging out, you always quote very interesting things. One of the things you said that stuck with me for years and years is, nobody ever became great by accident.
That's right.
Another one you said when we were on the road crossing America and we were all trying to figure out how to optimize our health. We were all 20-somethings and just, trying veganism and, macrobiotics, all this crazy shit. And then I remember you said, I'm going to become the healthiest person that ever died.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of your favorite quotes these days?
Well, it just changes. It's really, by me exposing myself to this kind of literature since I was young, I've always been interested in, getting information and getting knowledge, wise knowledge, about wisdom in life and behavior and way of thinking, philosophy, and so on. Now, in a way, that has affected me the way I actually see the world. Thank God, in a good way. And that way, the way to how you can actually put everything that you experience in a very small sentence that kind of resume everything in just a nutshell. It's very entertaining to me and just very interesting. I'm always in my head trying to kind of put things in a creative way, but in a very precise and very, objective way. So that actually works in different dimensions and from different points of view, and it goes into different realms, in a way.
So, What sayings have been sitting with you lately? Like one that keeps coming up with me and a bunch of friends recently is free is the most expensive of all. Mm-hmm. Right. Another one is you get what you pay for.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Like, what's sitting in your mind these days? Like, you're hanging out with a lot of your students. You're out on the road with, funny musicians. Mm-hmm. Anything come to mind? Like, that's been kind of summarizing the way that you're living? And
yeah, I use, more than a quote itself, and I don't want to disappoint your expectation on the quotes, but more than the quote itself, nowadays, because the world is changing so fast, so drastically in a way, moving into whatever direction that is moving, I'm always like kind of reminding myself the reason why I choose to do what I do.
Oh.
And that helps me to keep moving, because sometimes when you have to catch up many times and you have to actually kind of like being updated constantly in the world, it's tiring some, especially when you need to give so much energy and time to that you like, which is not necessarily that connected to this new world in a way. That reminder of myself, and I try to do that in a gratitude, but also in a kind of meditative way, to how to ask the questions of okay, well then let's say that I don't feel that that good this week, or for whatever reason, for whatever is happening, for whatever is not happening, with my way of doing things or my expectations. And I always give the students and myself and everybody, my friends and stuff like that, but especially to myself, because it has been very helpful to me to think, okay, go back in your mind and think, what are the real reasons why you're doing this? And the real reasons has nothing to do with how I'm getting frustrated. So I learned how to separate the two things and put the expectations of what is needed in the world to succeed now in a place, and what it needs for my personal journey, my personal way of feeling success, which is not the world kind of like model of what success is. So this first success of am I feeling comfortable with what I'm playing? Am I feeling comfortable with the creative process? Am I feeling comfortable or just satisfied by the way I'm writing, the way I'm creating books, and the way I teach, and the way I communicate, and my behavior? And if that is the case, and I feel an alignment with myself, then it helps me out to see this other part, which is the outer world, I'll call it. There's the inner world and then the outer world in a way. And those two are connected, but I think it's important sometimes to separate the two, because we get, really many times, hooked by this outer world of expectations and things that come from the outside world that, almost like becomes this kind of like never-ending story. And it never feels like, it never feels like, like it's enough. It's always the rat race kind of thing. So the inner thing, I want to feel some kind of like pleasure and some kind of like, inner alignment with peace and with gratitude and with my connection, spiritual connection to what I'm doing. So I think that it gets stronger every time that I go, through different circumstances, or I have a talk with someone that I have to give this kind of advice and things like that.
Yeah, I hear a lot of different things in that. The alignment with your inner peace, the alignment with your purpose. Sounds a lot like what I hear from a lot of the principles of Buddhism. Right? We are suffering all the time. We're trying to find balance. We're trying to find peace. We're trying to find acceptance. And then I hear a bit of some productivity matrix here. Like, does it align with something that I have control over? If so, then let me try to do something about it. If it has something to do with nothing I can control,
that's right.
Why am I going to do anything? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why would I worry about it? Right. And why does it take up space in my head, in my life, in my stress?
And especially that you just mentioned, to separate the thinking from the being, because thoughts, they coming up in different directions, in different realms, in different levels and different ways, consciously or unconsciously. And just to stay calm, understand that even though you might think that something is going wrong, it might be the wrongness to become something good later. but at that moment you're not conscious of it. So it's just like, oh, just trust that something is going to come up, because you put in so much positive things in the world that at least some kind of percentage is going to come back to you one way or another. So trust that as a great way to keep on moving, you know.
To trust the process. Yeah, I love that. You know, the more kind of fantastic people in the world I sit down with, the more I realize that there is such a similarity across the board. It doesn't matter if you're somebody that's swimming, or you're an actor, or you're a guy making videos on YouTube, or you're an amazing world-class drummer. Like, everybody at that kind of upper echelon level has a very similar attitude. Like, put in the work, trust the process, right? Be consistent, show up, do the hard things, right? It's incredible to see how universal that kind of philosophy works for so many different success stories.
That's right. I think at the bottom of it has to do with critical thinking.
Yeah.
And with that alignment, that inner alignment to the outside world, and then you start putting things, you know, together and understanding how things work in that realm, you know.
Sure. And speaking of the way that things work, you know, we are what we eat. We are the soil and the sunshine that we absorb as children. I could go on and on about my own hometown, San Francisco Bay Area, and then the years I spent in New York and how things have changed. And I'm sure we could talk about that forever as well. But I'm curious because there's very little out there about how you feel about your childhood and how that played a part in, you know, who you were as an early musician and developing person. I'm curious to kind of touch upon some of that. You know, one of the things, you know, I have so many amazing memories with you, but one of the things that really kind of blew me away was one of the first times we went to Europe together, and we were taking trains everywhere, right? And that's pretty common of a band that's just trying to get from city to city and play their shows. And but what was a little bit less common is we had some drums with us, we had some cymbals, we had cello, we had a keyboard, we had all sorts of heavy artillery, but it was just manpower. And so I remember most mornings when we would go to the train station, we had decided collectively between you and me and Christian Howes and Jason Lindner, right? We all decided that we would create a assembly line.
Right.
And somebody would get on the train, and then somebody would be on the steps, and somebody would be on the platform, and we would launch everything, because the train only stops for
teamwork,
like 30 seconds, 1 minute. And so you've got to get all that equipment in there. But there's something to that, right? The moment that he told us what daily life was like, it was something like you could never read in the news. And so I'm curious for you, like, aside from politics, aside from headlines, what was the humanity and the reality of growing up and being formed in Cuba?
Well, you know, it relies a lot in that teamwork community sense.
Right.
And, you know, that's seeing only one part of it, I understand that create kind of a trauma in a way, because it takes a lot away your individualism, your individuality. Yet I've never really thought that I was risking my individuality, because I still was inside myself. I still can choose to make choices whether I'm going to do it or not. But most of the time, my impulse was to work in a way so that I feel part of something, and I feel the connection with my peers. I think and you know, this since I was a kid, and this probably has to do because I'm one of the only kid. I'm the only son of, you know, I'm the only child, and I'm always kind of looking outside for some kind of connection. The idea of the teamwork, I've never been, you know, against it. I always think there are priorities, and there is always should be someone who makes final decisions, is in charge of things. But, you know, to see that kind of like hierarchy in a way, you know, it's a good thing, you know. And then you have to trust whoever is, you know, above you or whoever is below you. But it creates some kind of like a real the expectation, you know, oh, this is the job of this person. This is my job. And so nobody steps in anybody's, toe, basically,
Yeah.
And I think I like that sense of working, because I think how you can make everything that you will dream of by yourself without any help, and without feeling that you have a team or someone to rely, someone you can trust, in any level, whether that is professional or personal. So I really see that as a very interesting difference, of these two examples that you put in this case.
Right.
But just going a little bit deeper into my childhood, for example, I was born in Santa Clara, which is in the center of the island of Cuba, and I'm the only son. I'm the only child from my mom's side, and my father and my mom divorced when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And since then, my mom gave me this kind of like green light to really trust myself. And since I was a kid, at that age, 7 or 8, I started playing guitar, and I say, Mom, I really like the guitar, and she got me a guitar.
Right.
And she has nothing to do with music. She's, kind of a very common, ordinary, worker,
What was she doing?
She's good at math. So she's actually, she worked in a big factory in the administration office, like doing calculations for salary and that kind of thing, giving payments to people and that kind of thing. That's what was her work. It's kind of, pretty ordinary in that sense,
But essential.
Helpful. I'm not, when I say ordinary, I'm saying because you can find that common in very thing. It's not a downgrade of in any level.
Right.
But and that was it. I think I felt that all the time, that kind of like space for myself to build my own life, and not to have someone telling me what I should be doing or not.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was really helpful for me in terms of dreaming, in terms of my goals, in terms of relationships. And so I felt since I was a kid that I had that kind of like sense of rightness, of choosing who I really like, and choosing what I really feel comfortable with. And we as kids, we do crazy things, and we make a lot of mistakes, and we do all of that, but I never had the opportunity to blame my mom for it or anyone else. So I was the only one to blame for it if something went wrong, because I take that decision. So that kind of like responsibility of your own life since you were a kid, I think it helped me a lot to really understand that things have consequences. And if you make a mistake and nobody told you to do that, you are responsible for that, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So anyways, moving on, I started playing guitar. That's my first instrument.
Yes, I remember.
And then I changed for the bongos. This is a story behind it of, we were inside of a house of culture, basically. I was going there like a couple times a week. I was like, 7, 8. We all were guitar players. And we learned, songs and some little things and notes and scales and things. And then the teacher wanted to make a band with different instruments, a Cuban band, like a Cuban sounding band, like song, the style of song. And I picked, for some magical or unconscious reasons or very organic way, I picked to play the bongos. And because it was for me, in the back of my mind, always percussion was very important, very rhythmic. I come from this very rhythmic culture. I was born in a very modest, kind of poor neighborhood. And there was a lot of rumba people, musicians from like popular musicians playing rumba and things like that, rehearsing in the houses. I sneak into the houses to see the rehearsals and listen to how they talk, and just looking and hearing the instruments. It was all, through my own eyes and my own experience. Yeah. And then I started playing bongos. After that, I went, my mom took me to the School of Music, to the Fine Arts School of Music. And then then I start doing my training of percussion in the classical. It was classical music training. So I did 4 years in Santa Clara, and then I did a test, kind of an exam, to go into the National School of Music, which is in Havana. And then in the National School of Music, I did another 4 years. So my whole training in Cuba, formal training, was actually 8 years of classical training and some other kind of training, a little bit of Cuban music and things like that, but it wasn't that much. And inside of that, I get into listening to jazz, and there were some musicians that I really, start seeing since I was a kid, and I admired them, and they were part of this, like a big band, and they used to play like arrangement by Maynard Ferguson.
Oh yeah.
And arrangement,
yeah.
Like a big band, kind of like, virtuosic kind of playing.
They're showy.
Yeah. And also Herbie Hancock charts and some just things that were in the jazz style in a way. And that's how I got the initiation into jazz. Then after that, I started listening to so many different kind of music, including Indian music. That was one of my outer culture experiences, like listening to that. I mean, my friends in the school is like, what are you listening now? Like I was listening to Ravi Shankar with Zakir Hussain when I was like 14, 15 years old. And most of my musicians, the most they were listening to was Chick Corea with Electric Band at that time. So it was a complete different thing. But I think the big kind of big bang part that allowed me to get away from only one side of the story and start looking in a broader spectrum of music and fusioning of music with jazz and experimental alternative music. It was through a relationship of a musician named Carlos Masa. He was a Chilean. He's from Chile, and his parents moved to Cuba, since the thing with Pinochet and the whole thing in the late 70s, I believe, or the beginning of 80s. And he was part of the school also in the National School in Havana. And he was doing pretty interesting things, like I really enjoyed, because it was completely different than what everybody else was doing. And so I started playing with him. And he initiated me into and kind of opened my eyes to different kind of music that was happening. Some musicians like Alberto Gismonti, like Hermeto Pascoal, those kind of musicians and that kind of music, I started getting into that world. And then from then, I really felt much more connected, because it was also connected to a cultural thing that I wanted to do also in my I didn't want to be a jazz American musician. Why should I be that? I'm not American, and I'm not the jazz guy either. I'm using that information to cultivate what I really have inside myself, and to kind of like being influenced by not being a representative of it, because I don't feel like I am a big representative of it. And that's how basically my life start opening my eyes to new experiences in music and sound and arts in general. And that's basically kind of the way that happened. I started playing with him, and I started traveling with him. My first professional tour was when I was like 18 years old. And I was still at school, so they gave me a permit to actually be absent. So I was away of the school like for 3 months or something like that.
And you were saying you got a special pass to go out of class at 18 for your very first tour. Where'd you guys go?
Well, my first landing was in Paris. Could you imagine? Like from Cuba to Paris, when you're like 18 years old, that you have not seen the world, and then one of a sudden the world is in front of you, is all around, and you're almost like the late adolescents, kind of like everything seems to be tickling your head with potentiality in a way, I want to do that, I want to try that, I want to do that. It's like, we should do that. And it's like it was quite of an unbelievable journey. I always remember that experience of those first tours that I did with such a great fun and such a great learning experience, because coming from Cuba, which is a different system, especially in my experience, which most of my life at that moment was actually being inside of a school, not that much out of, even in Havana, I wasn't that much out in the city that much. I mean, I play and things like that, but it wasn't that, I was not living, in the outer world in Havana that much. I was kind of basically, at that moment, I was still at the school, as I mentioned. So it was a big revelation to me to see a different world.
What were your expectations going into Paris and France? Like, did you have any idea of what you would see, or who you would meet, or what it would look like? Anything? Like,
not really. I knew it was a much more developed country and people were living nicely and better in better conditions. But besides that, there is a great deal of different layers into that. Existence and potentiality in your life. Also, the transactional aspect of it, like how you can do something and get paid for it, and then that makes a better standard in your life, and then that's the way. I never thought of it at that moment, any of these things, that
like capitalism.
Exactly, like capitalism, because I come from a society which is basically socialism.
So what would have happened, like, if you were 18 and you played a gig in Cuba?
I actually
would not get paid?
I would not get paid.
Oh,
no,
nobody get paid.
No, not really. I mean, and if you get paid, I mean, in my particular case, I was not part of any institution.
Right.
So most of the time, the majority of the musicians, they were aligned or part of some kind of institution where if you play, they pay you, I don't know, maybe 100 pesos Cubanos, Cuban pesos, which it was like, I don't know, $5, something like that. It wasn't really like, the money wasn't really the relevant part, because there's not that much you can do with it.
Yeah.
It will only probably cover you for a couple days to eat at that time.
Sounds a lot like New York City.
Yeah.
Right now.
I know. but it's different though, because, there are different, in New York, you have so much possibilities in that sense. And the interactive, the dynamic thing that happens in cities like that, in like New York or Paris and things. It's a different level. I would say it's like comparing a big whale with a sardine. In terms of transaction and in terms of expectation of life.
The visibility, right?
Yeah, the visibility and the the repercussions of your work.
I was so curious, like, how the hell, like, when I went on my very first tours with my band, I went to, different festivals in different countries, and I would always ask the presenters, I'd be like, hey, I'm just curious, like, how did you come across thinking to find me and bring me to Germany or wherever, right, to France or wherever, Italy? And they said, oh, you know what, like, the popular answer back in the 2000s was, I read the Village Voice every weekend. Somebody sends it to me from New York City, and they would open up the entertainment section and see, oh, look, Dafnis Prieto is at a jazz gallery. Vanni Terry's at Iridium. Dana Leong is at freaking wherever, the Poisson Rouge, right? All these places. And they said, yeah, if I saw your name enough, then I thought, oh, maybe I'll figure out who this is and then listen a little bit. And then I decided to bring you over. And I was like, wow, who would have thought? These essentially... Oh, it also reminds me, there was a place way back when we first got to New York on the Lower East Side called the C Note. Yeah. And it's funny because C Note is the nickname for the $100 bill. And the most ironic thing is you could never make $100 playing at the C Note. They would put a bucket in front of the band and like we would split the bucket at the end of the night. Sometimes there would be like $3 in the bucket at the end of the night with like 8 people in a band. So it was like, I know. When I say I know, like from the New York perspective of like... I know. I know. Yeah, I know. The interesting thing is like you have a world in your head and this external world, it could be really harsh. It could be really demanding. And more than demanding, it could be cruel. Now over 50, and I've seen a lot of things that have happened to me. I have suffered a lot of things that have happened to me. And I've seen it in other people's. And I see how the stereotype now is very aligned with the success.
now with all the media, Instagram, you say, okay, I feel that I'm doing something interesting, let me share it to the world, and that's great, obviously. But there are millions of other people trying the same thing.
Right.
The connection that this human connection and this actual physical connection to the world is not as needed as we live now. Like now, you can even be a fake artist and people believe in you. I was talking the other day,
like a cartoon or an AI or something. Yeah.
Like I was talking to Henry Tregel the other day about similar subject.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, Dafnis, if Jesus Christ is right now in Times Square, nobody gives a shit about him.
They'd be like, forget that. What time is Katy Perry singing?
Exactly. So, the whole culture is changing also, how people consume what we do. It's a big challenge in this process of how much you're trying to accommodate yourself to this external world, and how much you're willing to pay for it in different ways. I mean, in time, in energy. It's not only the transactional money coming in and out, but time is gold and time is money. And time is life, and
it's all you have.
Exactly. So it's transactioning success versus your life and versus your principles and versus your integrity.
And they will call it marketing.
Yes.
They will call it marketing. And marketing is important for every business and product out there in the world. Sometimes I hate it and sometimes I'm beating myself up about it. I feel like I'm selling my soul. But then when you think about it, and people will accuse you, say, oh, you market too much or you market too little, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like there's no successful product out there with zero marketing.
Yeah, it is
true. So who cares, right?
It is true.
You need to get out there. And while I completely understand what you mean, like one of the analogies I have said for a long time, ever since the invention of social media, is that we are seeing a shift, and now the shift is full on. But at the beginning I said, oh, you know what? I see a shift where nobody wants to be in the audience anymore because everybody wants to be on the stage. And so when you go to a big concert, now everybody's doing this, and the performance is there, but they're over here.
Yeah.
Like, hey, right?
Yeah, it's a very, very narcissistic way of behavior. Even the people that have nothing to offer, they feel they have something to offer.
Right.
And then you are competing actually with that.
Yes.
And at the same time that you're also competing with, good quality other things. But sometimes it becomes very hard to distinguish one thing from the other.
Correct.
In the marketplace. So you have to really, that's connected to what we were talking about earlier. And, when I'm talking about integrity, I'm talking about things that you're willing to not give away of yourself or of your time or of your values, in your craft, in your art. They say, okay, no, I can't. Okay, this is, I understand that I'm gonna gain this, but at what price am I gaining this? That after I do this, I won't feel good with myself for the rest of or many years coming ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like this is a drastic thing, but it's important to think about these things because sometimes, we commit ourselves to things that doesn't really contribute. It doesn't align to that integrity, and therefore you feel at some point that you have been used. You have been used by the expectation of that world out there. As we go older, you try to balance that much more. When you're younger, you're like, okay, I'm putting out, doesn't matter. If I have to wear this thing in my head, I just wear it and play the drums, or, wearing this thing.
Yeah.
You tell me this now, it's like, nah, you know what? We keep being friends, but you know what? I'm not doing that.
Right.
That you can ask that to someone else and it's fine, but don't. So this kind of thing that I'm like,
I think along with your very early development in music, you had a very rarely seen maturity in your life and your kind of philosophy as well, and that ties into a lot of the ways that you've handled your career and had strategies for the way that you made decisions. Because I remember even early on in New York, before any of our other friends, you were already kind of having the vision, like, sure, there were a couple staple things you were doing, for the sake of mentorship and learning, but you already had your finger on the next thing and like your eye kind of already looking towards what you really were focused upon in your own self and your own career. To pedal back a bit, like when you were saying that sometimes we don't need each other as much because of digital connectivity, and maybe the pandemic proved part of that. I'd also like to play the other side of that coin and say that I think that it's rare in this world when we have people, artists specifically, who have not only the the gift of talent, but they have the blessing of their DNA in order to be able to simply do this thing we call music for a long time. When you count the number of artists who have been doing it out there for 40, 50 years, it's like one hand, right? You've got like the Rolling Stones, you got, I can't, it's hard to even, you have Sonny Rollins, right? Other than that, like, it's far and few between, right? So if you're, Paquito de Rivera, right? Like, it's like you think of the people who are able to just get up there and still like have fun, give it their all, and go around the world with this music thing. If you have the blessing of that in your DNA, the energy to go out there and do it, like, that is the example of why we need connection and why, what you're doing, here, even though, you said you're coming, because you want the new experience, but it's really a part of your entire purpose to come here, to play in the National Concert Hall. It's basically the palace in Taiwan, and show people that much more than what they can see on their phone is possible with two human hands and two feet, right? And it's amazing, right? Like my mom just turned 80 years old this year, right? And she doesn't go out for a lot of things, but every time you go to California, she goes, right? It makes her freaking year when you come out there and you play, man. And me too. I can't wait to see you this week. Like, congratulations. It's like such an honor to see you in the most prestigious venue in the whole island of Taiwan. So I think that we have to remember the torch that we bear, and like the responsibility and like you said, the blessing at the very beginning of the conversation that we have, whether it's the energy, the talent, the luck to connect and go somewhere, and the invitation, right? It's all a matter of just luck within that 100-year lifespan.
Big time.
So the connection is super necessary. We just don't really know how to unplug people from the drug right now.
Right.
That is social media, and like present company included. There's plenty of time I'm like, I shouldn't waste this much time looking at this. All right, let's turn this off and let's get back to what really matters, right?
Yeah, it does.
And there's plenty of times where I see that and it makes me wonder what actually really matters. But I think those moments when you really put your heart into something and you put your devotion and you leave it all out there, night after night, in something as like impermanent and magical as music that just dissolves in the air. Those are the moments we're living for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It basically comes out to experiential thing. That there is a price for that. There's it's the price to cultivate that experience, and also the aftermath, which means to experience that, and then what are you gaining from it? Whether that makes you happy, sad, or thoughtful, or whatever that is. Yeah. But in the process, we were talking about the process. I'm grateful for an experience like this, like you mentioned now, like playing here in this hall, this wonderful palace and so on. But a week prior to that, I was teaching students and looking at them like picking, like do this, then do that. So what I'm saying is, like, many times what is saved me in a way is like to seeing myself almost like from above, and seeing that even if I'm dedicating time, this specific time to this, it is related to something that will happen later. That is, what I'm trying to say, like, I'm not playing in palaces every week.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But when it happens, I'm grateful, and I appreciate and I enjoy the opportunity and so forth. And that gives me a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment in a way. but the purpose is under it. It keeps going from that beginning that you make that decision of doing something with your life all the way through to whatever it lasts.
Right.
You know, so all of these circumstances and episodes, whether you're teaching to a 5-year-old or a university person, or you're giving a lecture in a university, or you're composing a music that a big band is going to do with your own music, and or you're writing music for, you know, a ballet or anything, right. Or writing a books or anything, you know, in your own peaceful place. And it's that sense of continuity and development, and the sense of really the body of work that is not only one thing. It's not like, oh, I made a record and it made a hit and everybody know me. No, I don't really believe in that that sense, because it hasn't happened to me. I believe that maybe for some others it might happen. Some artists, you know, they really were unnoticed completely for a long time, and then one thing happened, and then it's just life. Like the peak, right? But you know, in my case, I think it has been a build up, a consistent build up of purpose and intention to really put out there my ideas and my, you know, I'm really trying to share my thoughts, my values, and what I stand for in this world as a human through my music, and as a musician through my music and through my art as well. So this is the music and my arts and my books and my writing and is a channeling, you know, all of this experience, whether are more personal, more in a human realm, or in the more you know, abstract or intellectual or spiritual realm as well.
Right. To pull it back to sayings, one of my very close friends says that fame is fickle, right? We don't know who gets chosen to be famous, how they got chosen, what the moment was, what people were thinking of. It just happens, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, you're no slouch either, right? I mean, like a lot of the viewers already know a little bit about you, but you know, Grammy Award, freaking the MacArthur Genius Award, right? A number of prestigious kind of grants and awards, and, you know, successful recordings, collaborations with, you know, world-class musicians. But of course, we all have our own internal view and like kind of criticisms or expectation of like what we think could have happened or should have happened. You know, but one of the things that, to tie it back to the early days of Cuba, I think it was Jim Nadell, the founder of Stanford Jazz Workshop, that may have been one of the first people to invite you to come to America, right? And I was there, and I happened to, you know, be one of the first people to witness when you came together with Yosvani Terry and Junior as well. Yosvani's brother that played the bass, and just the enormous impact that you made upon landing the people who were learning jazz and the people who were learning music and the people who were the audiences that appreciate music. It raised a lifelong question for me. You know, in Cuba and outside of Cuba, you know, there's been fantastic music. There's been world-class athletes. There have been doctors, scientists. There's all sorts of fantastic people that have come out of Cuba. But the process of getting there must be one thing, and then getting out to the world is the next. What do you think is special about the process of learning in Cuba that allows so much excellence in a place that is so underwatched and underserved?
I think you answered that question itself. When you feel underwatched and underserved, you do twice the work. And that gets you there. You know, you're not working for 100%, you're working for 200%. So the bad days are 100%. And that's what I tell my students all the time. When you work out and you practice, you have to practice with the sense of playing 200% or 150%. So the bad days and the days that you don't feel good, you're playing 95, 100, right? I think it has to do with the discipline. I think it has to do, of course, with your passion and the dedication. the talent is part of it, but I think more than the talent itself, it has to do with your discipline and your focus on how you're going to spend the time to filter all your experiences to use that one channeling. In my case, I've never separated music with my life. I've never separated the teachings that I've gotten from philosophers or from my music and from myself. I think it's part of a one thing. There is a, in a way, I've experienced some musicians that they have different compartments, like they are one kind of person and they play this kind of music and they think this way, and I'm trying to figure it out, how could you make connection between all of these things. And most of the time, the people that I admire, that's the level of integrity that I'm talking about. It's the level of oneness in a way that it really connects everything. It's like listening to someone. Let's say that you're listening to a musician, you start enjoying it now, and you keep listening to that music, and you don't know anything about that person yet, right? And then you're listening, and you say, "Oh, wow, this, I really enjoy that thing." And then when you actually meet the person, you realize why is that this person plays this music. Why?
You listen to somebody for a long time, and then all of a sudden when you meet them, something else clicks.
Yeah, I just think that in the case of most of the artists that I admire and have followed, there is a sense of integrity in the whole in their whole being.
Yeah.
Of course, we're humans, and sometimes we actually contradict ourselves, and that's fine. I'm open to that. I've seen doctors getting drunk or smoking cigarettes, which is, you're like, how is it possible?
Right.
It's like, well, he's still a human being, and you should allow yourself to give yourself a chance of doing things that might not align with expectations of that. Like people expect certain behavior, certain attitudes, coming from the, but I appreciate the honesty behind the artist. Don't try to fool me. You know what I'm saying? Like, put the mistakes also there, play them, and be that, and represent that with dignity and with decency.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is what I enjoy the most, when I listen to music and when I am sharing, an experience or this kind of, connectivity in a way, I will say, with different artists.
It's funny, when I was reviewing some of your past work and some of your bios and other interviews, I knew that you played the marimba. I discovered recently that you also played the guitar, and you confirmed that today. Why is it that after all these years, I've known you maybe 20 years now plus, we've never seen you play the marimba anymore or the guitar?
Well, it has been part of the process. I still enjoy it. I mean, the guitar, especially the acoustic guitar, is one of my favorite instruments. If you go right now to my YouTube, in my history, it's like a lot of like classical or even flamenco.
Sure.
Like the nylon string, not that much the guitar, the electric guitar. I mean, I admire and enjoy that, but especially the acoustic guitar is something that I felt for it since I was young. And the marimba and the xylophone and the timpani was part of my training, and I had to love it in order to go through. I learned a lot from those repertoires, and I learned to really enjoy the differences between playing, classical marimba or seeing a marimba players from Mexico. Right? That they have great, marimba. They have huge, big ones. They have 3 or 4 people playing one marimba.
Yes.
And so it's a different kind of thing, but it's a process. I believe in the process because every day is a new day. And that new day is related to your last, and it's going to be related to the next. but it keeps moving on, and that's what life is. It's really it's a series of events that happen since you're born into your your last day or your last time on earth, basically.
Yeah. Tying back into you said some stuff about students. We're talking about education still. We're talking about excellence and excelling through hard times. Is there something special besides the work ethic and the drive to want to go to a bigger stage, go to a more visible global place? Is there something special about the education system as well, or the teachers that you encountered in Cuba? Like when I was a kid, we recognized that China was constantly like a dominant force in the Olympics because they allowed children to specialize from an earlier age.
Yes.
Did you find that was also the case?
It's the same in Cuba. Like the training, when I'm talking about my training, it was like, in my case, my house was very far from the school. Like I couldn't really commute. So I lived as an intern, like basically I lived at the school.
Yeah.
So it was 24/7 dedicated to music, basically.
Right.
In the mornings we have music, in the afternoon we have the other academics. But the academics were really resumed. It weren't like the same academics that everybody takes at that age.
Sure.
It was very dedicated and very. So we had
more compressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Compressed and so it was like a training, like you're doing this every day, like 24/7, 7 days a week. I mean, you have to do a lot of wrong things for that to go wrong.
Our buddy Yosvani Terry plays the shekere, this percussion beaded gourd from Africa and Cuba, and you used to always joke that everybody in his family, even the dog, can play the shekere.
Yeah. But I think exposure, discipline, dedication, focus, all of those things, they really, I mean, you probably have heard this, and many people have heard this, but it really is really the matrix and the what is really sustain every other thing.
When we first got to Stanford University, and you had come there, Jim Nadell had been inviting various Cuban musicians and sort of adding to the roster bit by bit. So I think Yosvani may have been the first one to come by himself, and then after you came, and then maybe Junior Terry, and then the other members of Columna B, and some other kind of peripheral communal musicians as well. There was a rumor that at that time it was very hard to legitimately come out and have an invitation to either exit Cuba and or enter the United States. Can you talk about that process? What happened and how difficult was it for you guys to get over?
At that time, the way to actually make an international appearance, being in Cuba, being a Cuban musician at that time, it was align yourself or being part of an institution, of a music institution. They have like different institutions. So even though our band, Columna B, in this case, was not part of an institution, but we had a friendship with one of the directors of the institution. And he was the one that helped us out to get the visas, because we couldn't go just to the consulate and ask for the visa, because before the visa, we need to actually have a special permit from the government of Cuba to get out of Cuba.
Right.
So that was the first step. After you have that permit, then you go to get the. But since it's such a bureaucratic system, they don't allow you to individualize it, to make yourself, empower yourself to do it. No, you have to go through this institutional thing, this bureaucratic thing. And that was the way to make it happen. Basically, it was getting the permit. Well, first of all, getting the invitation, a letter of invitation. In this case, we're talking about Jim Nadell and the Stanford University. We got an invitation. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, let's partnership with this institution, with this friend of ours. And then he, write a letter or make the contact to the government or whatever the immigration system was at that time to get a permit to get out. Then after that, we have the permit, then we go into, then they go and send a representative from the institution to apply for the visas for all of us.
Right.
And then after that, then if we got the visa, then that was it. That was the whole
green
plan,
light.
the green light
Yeah.
to make it happen. Then of course, you have to get a copy of the itinerary and also the flights and the stipends.
Yeah, what you're gonna eat for breakfast.
Exactly.
They want to know.
All of that. All of that. So I really dislike that system very much because it doesn't empower the individuality. And more than that, what it does is like it creates a dependency of from that person who's the artist, who's the one that is actually the reason. He's the product. It just the product is so dependent in so many links, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate of an open system. Of a market open system,
Sure.
Like capitalism. Of course, when you get this capitalism system into a big, like cruel and really, competitive.
Sure. When it gets oversized.
Yeah. So the stream is also very bad, as bad as the other it is.
Right. Yeah. The extremes.
Yes.
To play the other side of just a bit, like I guess, of course, you want equal opportunity for as many deserved people as possible. If they are talented and they're hardworking and they're presentable and they have a great idea, you want them to be able to present that to as many people as possible, especially if it's in the arts world. Hard to decide when you are a judge of art what objectively is good and better and best, but in that particular system at that particular time, essentially you were chosen as an ambassador of your country to represent on the world stage, right? And to go everywhere else. And in a way that is a very competitive, but a very fair system that shows the best of the best. Right? And that's the way that we saw it and received it when you arrived. We're like, Cuba decided to send one guy.
Right. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
This motherfucker. And it was worth it.
Yeah.
They did the right thing. They sent the right guy.
But see, that was when you're talking about fairness.
Yeah.
It's just very hard because I think it has to do with being at the right time in the right place.
With the right people.
With the right people.
Yes,
the whole thing, I think everybody in a way in your individual path, you meet the right people or the wrong people, you make the choice to keep on with the right people or not. It's like,
and you think it's the right people.
Exactly.
Later on, you find out it's the wrong people.
So it's a behavior, analytical thinking, critical thinking. Focus on what you really want. I think it's just related to so many different things. Now, something that we have not talked about it, and I think is as essential as that. It is the culture itself. Like, I think the most empowering thing that I've experienced since my childhood to now is coming from such a strong cultural environment that had actually influenced me in so many different ways to be who I am now. And that is Cuban culture, especially music. And I think it's such a powerful, heavy culture developed in so many different ways. And I'm not talking about like the stereotype that we call as Cuban music. I mean, there are musicians and there are poets and there are visual artists and there are creative, minds in Cuba. And now, unfortunately, many of them are outside of Cuba, but they have been, driven by that culture and developed using that inspiration and that as a reference, that I think is really worth noticing the importance of being born and raised in a very strong cultural society, that it allows you to be who you are, to be honest, and to grasp all this amount of information in a very organic way. I always tell my students, most of the information that I play is not even conscious. It's so unconscious in my background that I'm playing rhythm. So I give you an example. Let's say that I'm doing a solo or so, and someone comes to me later, it's like, man, I heard this, and this, and this, and I'm like,
did you?
What are you talking about? I was playing me. From my internal point of view, I'm not choosing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that.
You're not playing Legos and building a castle in front of the audience, right?
Exactly.
It's more language. Right?
It's a consequence, it's an organic way of representing yourself and expressing yourself because of this cultural heritage and this cultural background that is so, just deep and profoundly, rich.
100%.
The situation right now globally, politically and economically and all, is really worrisome.
Yeah.
Because you have this tendency of, because I am stronger, therefore you have to submit. I'm the one that is going to dictate you how you're going to do and be. Yes. And this is nothing new.
Yes.
But what is new is the revelation of seeing it in the everyday life because of social media and because of all the ways we actually receive information now. To see it in a very harsh and very non-decent and non-political and not...
It's not gentle. It's very black and white, right? It's extreme.
It's very competitive.
It's jagged.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. The world doesn't feel round. It feels like it's got all sorts of spikes and kind of wobbles and.
I know.
I understand what you mean.
It makes you feel like, wow, this is getting into a level, like the competitive level right now. I think it's much more competition now, much more harshness. Especially in my realm, in our realm of music, we can be talking about the specifics of all of this and the building blocks and how this gets this and how it doesn't. But at the end of the run, as I say, and as we were talking earlier also, like we be on this earth probably, if we're lucky, 80, 90. I mean, 100 is like too much, but that length is irrelevant if you're not really doing what you believe that is the right thing for you and bringing something positive and something productive and constructive to the table. There's a lot of manipulation. I always have said that even in the music industry right now, there is a huge deal of manipulation of commercial transaction that really deteriorate the culture and the quality of what we call culture or music or any kind of things that is actually that has been considered in a way subjective, which I think it has been used in a very abstract or non-valid way, which it has actually worked against it. The actual thing that we do. When you call something subjective, it gives you no validation at all because it's subjective.
No, I see. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, if you call, that's completely subjective, it takes
all the preparation, all the
the whole
all
thing,
the practice,
and this world is so looking for the objective, for the things that are transactional, that are real, that are things like that. And people don't realize that everything that we live on, everything that we consume, everything was subjective first. It was product of people's imagination.
Yep.
It was a product somehow of your work intentionally in something that bringing from your realm of imagination and creativity into this world, like this chair, like this mic, like everything that we experience now, in a social, realm or in life per se. I mean, separate from nature and what nature offers us, but what we have done with our power as individuals, as people individually, put things in the objective and the subjective mode because it evaluates the real potential in it. There is a value in the objective, but there is a potential in the subjective. See?
There's the quote we needed. That's the quote we needed. All right. Let's put that at the top. I could easily talk to you all day. I mean, I think the last time we were hanging out at Stanford after hours in the parking lot, we talked half the night. There's always so many amazing thoughts, and I want to figure out what I can ask you to close this out before we go into a couple questions from around the world here. I guess I have a combination question about mentorship, since you're doing a lot of work to help the future generations of artists, musicians, and etc. You've now been at the Frost School since around 2015, 2016 season, which is coming up on a decade. I'm curious, of that time now, I mean, you've been teaching for longer than that. You and I met at Stanford in the 90s, right? Of all the students that you've worked with, who are some of the ones that maybe we don't know about that you feel are promising now?
The students, they have their own uniqueness, of how they come about. And I have drummers that are great into the craft and things, even though some of them, they more aligned to where I'm going, in terms of the vocabulary and the projection of things. Some others are not, but I still admire what they do and, the way they doing things. They're still great players. I have a student of mine named Marcelo Perez, who's a great drummer. He has a wide range vocabulary in his music and the drums and so forth. He writes music, and he's now getting into the publishing world and creating actually his own entrepreneurship into like getting, how to make a better world more fair to the musicians in terms of getting royalties and things like that. So Marcelo's mission, more than the music that he's playing now, he actually, this is interesting because he's one of the students of mine that he's actually from the West Coast.
Okay.
He's from Oakland.
Oh yeah.
From your neighborhood.
Yeah. And Oakland's a very special part of the world for music.
Yeah. And he studied at Frost with me in the school. And then he's doing all of this. He graduated. He did his master in NEC, New England Conservatory, and he actually invited me to play at his recital. Because of that recital, I met Bob Moses.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, the drummer. So I met Bob Moses.
He's a wild one, right? He plays with like sticks, like tree branches, and does all sorts of wild things with the drums.
Yeah. And I've been admiring his work, for a long time. We did actually a quartet of drumming quartet with Billy Hart and Bob Moses, Marcelo, and myself. So we did a drum quartet. There is actually some footage in YouTube online about that. So he graduated, and then he went to New York. And this is the interesting connection. He started playing with Peter Affoban and the Hieroglyphics, which is one of the first bands that I started playing in New York when I was a kid, earlier.
Yeah.
So I see like the connection on how he kind of like, became, using that same hat in a way. So it feels very familiar and very, just like the trend is there. Right. In terms of the music. And
those who say history doesn't repeat agree that at least it rhymes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. No, it does repeats many times. And we have to celebrate when it repeats in a positive way.
100%.
Yeah. And that's, just one example of it. But I have different other musicians or other students that, they became great drummers. Some that they live now in New York. Some that they came as exchange students, and, they go back with a complete different knowledge of that is giving that they would not be able to get it elsewhere. Because I think, and this is very important, to say, when we're talking about the system per se, that's the outer part of it. That's like judging the egg by its eggshell. Basically, the real experience comes from the individuals that are boots on the ground, dealing with the message, the real message. And that is very important and becomes the influential part of it. you have the system as the stereotype and things like that, but then you have the faculty members, the value of those individuals, and the quality of those individuals, what they give to the students. I think that's the most valuable thing.
You and I have come up through an art form, music, that is very much tied to, as you mentioned, mentorship, generational tradition, the teacher and student relationship. I've seen you go through a number of different iterations, right? Like working with Jane Bunnett from when you were in Canada. You went through a crash course of musical development, living with Richie Flores in Spain, right? I'm sure there are some amazing stories there. I know there are some amazing stories there. I recall when you first started working with Michel Camilo as well. And I was like, everybody was super thrilled to see you go on, global stages with Michel. Both of you are at the peak of your abilities, and it's just such a meticulous musical match, right? And I remember asking you, like, how is it? And you said, it's one of the most challenging, detail-oriented, physically demanding, mentally, like, concentrationally draining, resource draining, demanding, I should say, gigs that I've ever done in my life, right? You introduced me to Henry Threadgill. I ended up touring with him you ended up for a few years with us, and then I ended up working with him for almost 9 years. Through you and Yosvani and a number of other connections in New York, we connected with Steve Coleman.
That's right.
Also the Stanford connection there. While you and I have come up through this kind of more traditional ladder and system of traditional kind of learning and grooming in jazz and creative music, I'm curious why we have yet to see any of your professional ensembles take on that kind of model of, like, bringing on, like, a very young up-and-comer.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think still me as a leader and has been consolidated as I wanted to. I've been fighting for more than 20 years already, and as I mentioned earlier to you, I took the decision a couple of years ago to really kind of like focus on my personal projects more than anything else. Before, I used to do like more balance. I used to do a lot of like side main things with Michelle and with Henry or Steve Coleman or any other Caribbean jazz project, you name it. And it was great experience, build up, learning, and exposure and so on. But I'm at the stage now where I want to focus all the energy and all my potential to really build, but not only build, expose my work through different, through my books and through my music, through my playing of that specific thing that I want to do in my works and my thing. In a way, I have influenced many of my students because of my way of, giving them, mentorship them, in values and integrity and all of that. At this moment, I have there is a bass player who's much younger than me, like 20 years younger. He started actually subbing many times for Ricky Rodriguez in my band. His name is Raul Reyes. And, he sees me different now because I'm much older. I'm twice his age. So passing that baton, to someone else and this kind of thing, it's hard for me many times to actually pick and choose the right personnel for the projects, because I'm trying to stay away from that generic way of dealing with music. It doesn't matter if you come from Cuba. It doesn't matter if you're this. It has to have the right combination in a way of personality, authenticity, integrity, focus, and also giving. Sometimes you have people with a great high caliber kind of thing, but they bring a bag of other things that you're not, you don't need that. And at this stage in my life, I'm not going to deal with that kind of thing.
Sure.
And that's something that I actually learned from all of the other leaders that I work with. If you're not there to contribute and to do something positive about it, just better take yourself off the equation and just do something that is productive to you, and don't deconstruct or deteriorate the work of someone else.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
If I might say, maybe you're also somebody that values long-term relationships.
I do.
Right.
For example, I have Peter Afobam working with me. Peter is probably the oldest musician. Oldest
in the world. No.
I'm not saying he's the oldest musician. I'm saying
no.
I've worked with him the longest.
Right.
I meant to say. Yeah. And we
that
have
was a joke because Peter's been around since we
know.
were kids. He was already established.
He's older. He's older. He's probably 15 years older than me.
Yeah.
And
what a great soul.
Yeah,
he's an amazing guy.
And he's a great guy. He's very musical. I love his personality, and I understand him.
Yeah.
And we have created a really nice relationship, and that's hard, and I actually foster that. I appreciate that kind of connection because I know it's really hard to get. So I appreciate it, and I nurture that, and I try to keep it because it doesn't matter. It's rare. And the same happens, with other musicians. I start playing with Martin Bejerano.
Excellent pianist.
Yeah, excellent piano, but a great guy, great musician, and someone that has all of those.
He's like a super team player, man. He always shows up with a smile on his face, ready to do it. Right?
That's the kind of thing. Like, I can understand that each of us has their individual world, but when we are together, we're working as a team, and we have to have a common goal.
Right.
A complete, unified goal to make that really solid and to make that really successful in the sense of the making. And I really believe in that, and that's why it's so hard.
Maybe much respect to you, right? I often talk about how a lot of the world can take a page from artists and musicians in terms of looking at long-term relationships. You look at the Rolling Stones, they're old as dirt, rich as God, yet they still want to be together to play, right? And there's something special about that.
It's a family,
80 years,
man. It's a connection. It's a connection that is not only musical, it's human. We are 2 hours on stage a day.
Yeah.
The rest of it in the tour, for example, we are off stage, we are humans, and we're dealing with personalities, behavior, decision making, respect. Right. Don't step on words, because you want to do that, but there is a community thing, so you have to work around it.
Correct.
I'm not against you doing something on your own in your off time, but don't use the time of the team for your own benefit or so
or worse.
Yeah, that's why I value these long term relationships, and I really
It brings up a couple things. Like when we did the State Department ambassador tours, music ambassador tours, we had Wynton Marsalis give us a briefing, and somebody said, "What's the best advice you can give us?" He said, "Okay, remember, you need to function as a family, but remember, you're not a family. So don't say the things you think you can only say to your family, because they're not your family, and it's gonna bounce back."
Yeah, you can get fired anytime. It's very important and very humbling to understand something. Even though you might be the greatest guy in the band, everybody's replaceable. It's humbling to think about that, because especially when you're doing Simon things, and it happened to me. It's not like I understand. I'm playing with some band and I say, you know what, it's about time for me to pivot and deviate to a different thing. I appreciate the opportunity and all, but if I keep being here, I'm gonna damage myself, and I'm gonna damage you, and I'm gonna damage the whole thing. So that's not it. So I better take that that's a humbling position.
Yeah, you're taking food out of your own mouth, right?
Exactly. That's a very humbling, it's very mature way to be responsible with your outgoings, with your behavior, and how you're going to operate in that kind of situation. Especially because it really demands a great deal of, as we were talking, a great deal of the teamwork and the respect, and therefore, if some of that is not functioning anymore, it's just better to move on to the next step, and and keep that relationship in a different level and so on. You know, I hate the most when the breakup is like completely
the end.
Yeah, it's like you break up working with someone, but then at the same time there is no relationship anymore.
They call it a business divorce.
Yeah, but it's more than a business divorce, because it's actually a human divorce too, because you don't talk anymore,
right.
Or some people start gossiping, or it becomes this kind of like fight, which I hate. And for most parts in the relationships that I have with my previous leaders,
right.
I have a great relationship with them. I still a great relationship with Michel Camilo,
great. Yeah.
With Henry Tregel, who I still actually work. We have an amazing trio that we just record now, a new album.
Yes, I saw.
With Vijay Iyer, Henry Tregel, and myself.
Yeah.
I have great relationships with most of my previous leaders. I have a good relationship, and they understand where I'm coming from. They understand that I have my own view of doing things, and I should give myself the right to move on in that direction. It's their life, and all of this is kind of like chapters. Even when you make the decision of doing your own work for a long period of time or for the rest of your life, there are chapters in it. There are musicians that come in, they give something, and then it's time to move on. And then, or you have a different project in mind, and why the musician will think that something against you because you have a different project in mind. That's your world. That's your spirit, you have the right. You have the right to do that. You know.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, if that weren't the case, we would still all be carrying around the iPhone 1.
That's right.
But we're at 17 now,
exactly.
Right? Like
or even worse, the Motorola.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my students at the university like a couple of weeks ago about that. Like, man, when I was in New York, the difference is like, I came to New York in 1999, and there was not a cell phone.
Right.
Everything was personal contact, right. Or you get the line phone.
Yeah.
But you have to have a meaning. You have to have a real intention behind doing things.
Yeah, you got to think about what you're going to say before you call somebody.
Exactly. Or most importantly,
when you meet, you need to set a place. If they're not there at 3 p.m., it's like, this is the end of the world. There's no way to find them.
Exactly. So it was a complete different world that is now, Right. And, I was telling them, the Motorola thing, like it was just a phone. That's it. This is just... And that was the very sophisticated, I can talk. I mean, I remember those first experiences of walking on the street and having a phone in my ear talking. That was like unbelievable. And now we have these phones that are computers, and now with the AI and the whole thing that can enhance our life. But when that becomes the essence of it, that's my problem. That's the problem that I have when things make the shift, and then we lose all of this and all of this real connection for this kind of connection. This is where I have the problem. Right. I have a good time looking at YouTube videos that I will never imagine I will see. Things, information. I mean, everybody does their own research. That's your problem. I do my own research of things that I like and so on. But I try to compensate that with the real world, the real doing, the actual analog world that I still value very much.
It's only gonna get more complicated.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean, though. Like, it's important to remind ourselves not to try to replace convenience with meaning.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Replace meaning with convenience.
Yes,
right.
That's right.
We get more and more technology, we get more access, but then we get less meaning out of the time we're spending.
Yeah,
right. I understand that.
And it's at the end of the run, all of this experience is to fulfill your inner growth, which at some point is going to come out of yourself and is going to influence positively to the world.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, then you just become a mirror to what it has been giving, and that's about it. So you're not really processing anything. It becomes authentic of you. You don't have anything to bring to the table, and what you're doing is you're receiving information and bringing that information back to the world as basically as it has been given to you. And this is very important. Now let me say this quickly, because I was talking about this, and I do talk with my students about this a lot. What we had before this era of digital and in social is that we had so much time to build character. That's why we have the kind of character that we have before, like people like Coltrane, people like Charlie Parker, people like Picasso or Dali or Dostoevsky.
Charlie Chaplin, right?
Or Charlie Chaplin.
Like these real actual characters.
You had time.
Right.
Because you went through life and you built character, and life helped you to build character.
Yeah.
It's very hard to build character just by doing this and scrolling. You acquire information, you acquire knowledge, but character, attitude, behavior, those things needs to be inside your subject. There is something that is called experiential life that is not looking at what other people are doing. And as a creative person, as someone that creates, you need that time. You need actually time for not receiving information, so that you can incubate what you have already had, process all of that, and then internalize it, and then for that to come out. If you keep putting things and putting things and putting things and putting things,
there's no recipe. Everything is just full.
Exactly.
Right.
That's it. So you don't have time for creativity. You don't have time for critical thinking. You don't have time for all of the things that really sustain a character and sustain something that is really honest and is really individual in you.
Organic.
Organic, exactly.
Yes. With every episode, it comes to a point where we get questions from people around the world. And we had some excited people chime in. The first one is from one of your fellow MacArthur Genius Award recipients, Mr. Miguel Zenon.
All right.
He chimed in, he said, hey, can you talk about Pancho Quinto, his specific influence on you, and what he meant to Afro-Cuban drumming as a whole?
Well, Pancho Quinto is a very interesting character. I met him through working with Jane Bunnett. And what happened is, like, if you see it from one side of the story, he's representative of that tradition, of Cuban drumming and, rumba and the tradition of Yoruba and so on and so forth. But when you get in and closer, you realize that he actually represents not only the tradition, but the development and the evolution of that. He's actually one of the first guys that start using a combination of the cajon with the cowbells and with different things. Like, he incorporated a set that he had into the rumba part, which
like
normally, exactly,
drum.
a hybrid kind of thing. He's one of the first guys that did the hybrid thing, and did something very interesting within the concept, not the concept, but the style. This is a subgenre inside of the rumba, which is called guarapachangueo.
That's right.
Guarapachangueo is a kind of a branch of that rumba, and he is one of the the pioneers of that style. And what he brought, it was an uplifting level of interplay and dynamic into it by using a lot of accents and by really bringing another level of unpredictability into the way you play that.
Yeah.
So he's, you say you play in the regular rumba thing, and the things that he accents, and then you're like completely like so surprised and so dynamic and so interplayful with everything that happens, and it becomes such a interactive and dynamic fluid kind of thing. One of the things that I learned from him, it was precisely that. One of the things, it was that you could very well use tradition as a point of departure, but it doesn't have to be your destination. You know what I'm saying? Like tradition for me, I respect it, and it's a point of departure for me, but it's not the destination. My destination to me is to personalize this whole experience, whatever that's going to be called, whatever it is, but that it makes the sound that I'm really looking for. Whatever you give the name after that or not, whether that is rumba, guarapachangueo, alternative, whatever you call it.
Right.
He has a great album also that is called En el Solar de la Cueva del Humo, which is, you know, it's a really good album also. One of the other things that I learned from him, and I was asking because I actually got some lessons from him, like, you know, like some rhythms, specific rhythms that I want to learn from him in the batas and, you know, things like that. And he's a very wise, like very organic, you know, kind of wisdom thing. He say, Dafnis, you really want to learn something, you know, with your hands, even all of these things that the batas, try to do it with your feet. And I'm like, wow. So I actually stared at that thought, at that, you know, for like a couple of days. And then I realized, man, he's so right. What he meant, it was that you need to incorporate that to your body.
Yeah.
And sometimes we use only one part of our body. In this case, the upper extremities, right? But when you actually try to do what you do here, just on your feet, I'm not talking about speed. I'm not talking about doing this in a show. No, I'm talking about the work in progress of how to actually, in a way, internalize and put all of that information in your body through your feet. That was to me like, whoa, you know, even though I was a drummer and I used my feet all my life, even though he's not a drummer, he's a percussionist, and he never used his feet. He never had a pedal in his life to play. But through his mind, through his logic, he realized that if you actually learn it through your feet, you already have it in your body. So it was really amazing to actually, you know, experience that and just actually receiving that from him. He was a very charismatic and very giving person. Someone that really, you just look at him in the eyes and you know what he's thinking. You know, this kind of like connection that you can get with some people that is very human and very, you know, connected in that supra consciousness level of existence. So anyways, that's my answer.
He's like your Yoda.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was very influential. Thank you, Miguel. That's for the amazing question. Rio Sakairi, the director of the Jazz Gallery in New York City, one of the rooms that shaped both of our histories and our futures. She said, I used to think Dafnis was a quiet cat. It turned out he just didn't know how to speak English.
That's right.
How did you go about learning English, and what was it like navigating early days in the United States or in New York before English was fully there?
I came to New York and immediately I kind of like create a connection with the Jazz Gallery with Rio and Dale Fitzgerald.
Dale.
And at that moment, you know, learning, I didn't go to school for English. I took the route of, you know, self-teaching, and I had a notebook and I wrote phrases and I know the meaning of the phrases, and I also wrote how, you know, in some cases, how you actually pronounce certain words that if you see them, you don't know how to pronounce them until you know, you get used to it. Yeah. And that was the way it is. I mean, you know, also I wasn't as expressive at that moment. So I think it's a combination. It's not that I didn't know only how to speak, but I thought, she was right. I was more shy at that time because I wasn't fully, you know, built up, I would say, personality-wise yet. You know, I was kind of like, I think New York was that place for me which helped me to find what I want and how I wanted to do it because of the amount of experiences that I was exposed to. And that really helped me to be less shy, to be much more expressive, and be able to say and to give in musical terms that level of closeness in a way to what I wanted to do and to develop myself in artistically in the whole thing. But yeah, that was interesting. I'm gonna share actually one of the first phrases that I learned in English, which is a very laughable and very true at the same time. The phrase is very simple, and many of you probably know it. It's like, money talks and bullshit walks. Man, when I heard that, I mean, I wrote it down in a piece of paper and I look at it, it's like, oh my, what did I get into?
Yeah, what does this mean? Yeah, what's happening? Yeah.
Well, and then, he explains to me what it meant. Like, basically in a society like this, you have to do anything for survival and for money. Mm-hmm. So money talks, which means the money is the one that talks.
Yeah.
And then bullshit walks, which means anything will go with it for that. So it's a very broader interpretation that you can give to that phrase in so many different ways. But
sure,
money talks and bullshit walks.
Right. The wonder kid, now who's fully grown, Adam Platt, who toured many years with me playing keyboards in our Milk and Jade group, he chimed in as well. So he asked, what kind of things actually challenge you musically, whether it's styles or genres or certain types of discipline within practice? Like what do you find challenging and how do you work through that?
To me, the most challenging at this moment is to find the time that I used to have when I was young to dedicate to my craft.
Right.
Because I have so much commitments and responsibilities, between my teachings at school. I run the drum set jazz department studio. It's not that I teach.
Right.
I run the studio, which basically means that I have
to manage the other teachers too. Yeah.
I have another teachers that depend on me, a TA, and 16 to 20 students also that I have to put in different classes with different exams. I mean, it's a great deal. And also, the administrative stuff, it's time consuming.
Sure.
Besides my creative work of keeping my mind in the right place to save some time during the day when it's possible to give attention to creativity and to my realm of creative artist, and on top of it to keep myself in shape physically to the instrument, the craft, the ability of playing. That's the challenging thing for me at this moment. It's really to balance all of that. And I get sometimes in the dark zone when I see that I'm giving more time to some than other. I always say, as much as I enjoy teaching, and this is a very honest, statement probably.
Yeah.
As much as I enjoy teaching and I see the great level of responsibility and love and passion that I have, to nurture new generations, and I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for music to be a musician and to be a creative musician and to get closer to that intimacy with music and that high level of expression. Now, the course and the process in life has given me different, shakes and things like that. The first reason why I started teaching, besides the Stanford experience, but Stanford experience was more about, a short period of time, which in your head conscious that it has an end, and then you keep moving.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I started it is because in New York, I started getting people asking me for lessons and teachings and things like that. Then my son was born in 2003.
Right.
And then in 2004, one of those young fellows, drummers, he asked me to be part of one of his jury in NYU, at NYU.
Yeah.
So I went to NYU to his recital because they need, someone from outside to be the jury in a way, to give a feedback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was part of the thing. So he
interesting.
picked me, and the university was going to pay me, I don't know, just something honorary, but it's not important. So I went and I sat there, and one of the sudden, Dave Schroeder, who's the chair, at that time was the chair of the music department, the jazz department in NYU, he recognized me, and he sat on my side and said, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?" And we started talking. And he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, I'm doing fine, you're doing thing with Michelle, Camilo, I start these things." And I said, "I just have my kid, but also thinking, like, how to stabilize myself and not do that much, touring and stuff, because, I want to be part of his growth and be around him and stuff." He's like, "Well, if you want to teach here, you're more than welcome anytime." And I look at him, it's like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, no problem. We'd be so happy and honored to have you." It's like, next year I was working there.
Right.
So I started working at NYU 2005. So I've been basically formally a teacher for 20 years. 10 years at NYU and now 10 years at Frost School of Music.
Sure.
But that's not what I signed up for. I love it. And when I am in it, I'm fully in it.
Yeah.
And from the outside, from the inside, and from any respect, I understand the responsibility and I like what I'm doing. I'm proud and I'm honored of the service. It's a service that I do. Inside my consciousness and in every other system, my identity is much more all the time to my artistry in terms of my creative realm.
Right.
That's what I sign up for.
Right.
And that's why I keep it, because I could not be fully a teacher and that's it. I could be the artist fully without being the teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I cannot, not that I'm making, any extreme, decision at this moment, and I don't have to. I think I'm finally kind of finding the balance between the two, because I enjoy the two. But, I always say, and I say this to the students, I sign up because they have to be ready from the unpredictable. Sometimes you go in this direction and there is so many opportunities that if you don't grab them, and you think, "No, I'm only doing that, then you're missing the whole point. And what happened in my life is being able to take advantage of those opportunities and build myself. If it weren't for education, for the experience that I have since all of these 20 years, I have 3 books already. I have 3 books that I publish and made myself with my own experiences that I actually teach my students through those books.
Right.
It's a great gathering of information there. It solidifies your body of work in the academy. So I took the opportunity as a challenge, and I make it personal, and I make it as a pathway to grow, because teaching is a very spiritual experience. It's a very spiritual experience, as well as performing and creating. But it's a different dynamic and a different realm that you're going into.
Different stamina too.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny you say I didn't sign up for this or that. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, we didn't sign up to be born, right?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. We did sign up for, as soon as we are born, we signed up for life, though. Right? And life goes in so many different directions. One of my very closest friend's mothers gave a beautiful speech when he turned 18. And she said, in the path of a man's life, he typically has 3 chapters. The first chapter is that of a child. You need to be nurtured. Someone needs to take care of you. Somebody needs to teach you. You're a student. Then in the middle of your life, you become a warrior. You go out and you fight for what you believe in. You protect the ones you care about. You collect and you share with your family. And then in the final chapter, you become a teacher. And you share what you've learned. And you're not out at battle. You're not, of course, you're still learning. You're a forever student, but you're not helpless.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think there is something beautiful to that progression and the inevitability that, like, almost everybody is going, with 100 years, almost everybody's going to do somewhat the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. But I get you. Like my mom has been teaching, piano ever since she got done with her TV career in Tokyo. She came to the US and she's been teaching over 40 years, 7 days a week. I couldn't survive one day in that, like mode, and that with needing that level of stamina to see like 7, 8 students back to back from like, as soon as school is out till like the late night.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I honestly don't understand physically, scientifically how it works.
And the difference is that you finish your lesson, you're giving everything.
Yes.
And the only thing that you can expect is that that person understands and channels everything that you have said in the right way and hope for the best. There is no clapping after your class.
Oh, yeah.
There is no recognition, feedback that you get from you playing in a performance. You play in a performance, people clap at you, they come after the concert, they say whether they like it or not, they have a thing. That doesn't happen in the academic world.
Okay.
Many students are very shy.
I think, they're getting more quiet, right?
Yeah, they're getting more quiet. They're not going to say, and some of them they say, but it's a very one-on-one thing, which is, it's fine, but it's, you don't feel instant gratification. Which is something that in a way, you mature to not look for that. There is a level of maturity where you don't look for that instant gratification or feedback all the time. And I think one of the experience of teaching have taught me about that. I was in the dentist the other day and I was having a similar discussion with the dentist, with the doctor, because I say, man, you're doing a great job and nobody claps you and stuff. So I actually, when he finished doing something to my teeth, I stand up and I start clapping and he started smiling. And many people are doing great job all around in many areas. Pilots.
Oh yeah, they do clap for the pilots.
Yeah, they do. They do. Sometimes they do.
That's
but
good.
Doctors.
Yep.
And on many other
even
things.
Even just people that are good parents. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just the take care of the grass. They don't get no clapping. They don't get
Right. Yep.
Once in a while they get some kind of certificate for accomplishment or some kind of thing, but that's about it.
Right.
It's very isolated in that.
It's thankless.
Yes. So it's just. Wow. But it's a humbling experience at the same time, because at the same time you experience that exists. Therefore, that's that's what I was talking earlier about our conversation about the experiential. One thing is you think, okay, these people in this country live this way, they're poor, they don't have this and that. And the other thing is you coming from that and telling the experiential, story of going through it. That's that experience. There is no book that can replace that.
Right.
That's an intrinsic knowledge that you have in your own well-being that is going to help you and shape you to make the right decisions at some point. Maybe you read this in the book and at that moment you are in it, the best case scenario, you actually learn really well and it becomes experiential, but that's really hard to actually measure when you actually have a real experience. Like love itself. It's not the same to see a soap opera or to read a novel.
Right.
Than to experience a love story by yourself and learn all the parts. See, that's a different level of knowledge and wisdom right there.
Sure. Yeah, the school of life. One thing I see though, we are spoiled with love as artists who get to the opportunity to show something to the world and have people appreciate it. And a bit selfish at times where we're like, oh, how come nobody's clapping for me, right? I'm doing the dishes and I'm like, writing all these emails and, taking care of business. I'm doing everything I should do on top of also like being able to go on stage and spin this, plate and bounce this basketball. But what I recognize about the teaching that you've brought up now when I think about my mother, I think about what you're talking about now, is that you go from being the dessert or the dish to becoming one essential ingredient.
Yes.
Like you said, like you don't know what's going to happen, but chances are that let that cook for a while, and that person's going to go off into life and have a totally different perspective of how they feel about music, how they feel about themselves, how they felt about that time of life, their confidence, their relationship, and how they listen to other people, how they relate to other people. It's just so much that enhances their life for
and
for the long.
And you feel that many times, with some students that are able, to break that shy mode of reciprocity in a way.
Sure.
And when at the end of the semester, many of them, they come to you, and they say things that you weren't expecting. How grateful they were for your teachings and your mentorship and what they mean to them, and they cite some of the things that they say. I had students that taking notes, and then at the end of the semester, they send me an email with all the quotes because I like it. But the quote thing for me is something that comes instantly.
Right.
To me, it's a way to resume a huge paragraph of information to resume in a nutshell. And this student just, wrote
all the one-liners.
Yes, like 10, 15 quotes throughout the whole semester and send it to me. And I'm like, oh man, this is so beautiful stuff. And I start laughing, with them. And, at some point, in some kind of level, you feel like they are an extension, that you are responsible for that. And that, in a way, they almost become your sons and daughters, for that time being.
Yeah.
Then you let them go, as you do with your child. They need to go to the wall and do it, and hope for the best.
What I'm describing is that like you're that small ingredient, but you're an essential ingredient of that recipe. But the cook time is much longer than play a song for 5-10 minutes and then people clap. It's generational, right? Like now recently, some of my classmates from middle school and even high school are bringing their kids to study with my mom. And I'm like, wow, now I see. Like, I think about legacy, and I think about, when it's all said and done, like the amount of lives that she's touched is enormous, even though she did it one by one. Right. I think we measured years ago, at least 10 years ago, we were applying for a grant, and we calculated that she had already taught over 70,000 individual private lessons from 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's 7 days, more than my entire life.
That's a great contribution to humanity.
Yes.
And to the realm of well-being, period. That's a great contribution. It's not instant, but it doesn't have that instant gratification. But little by little, it's instant because you start feeling love, for what you do, and you love it, and you that fact, the act of giving. But then you receive that, as you say, in a much longer time and so on. It's not as instant as the performance. But what I'm talking about, the performance, is not about the clapping or the instant gratification. I'm talking about the opportunity of focusing in my personal relationship with the arts,
right?
Not through another person. Like when you're teaching about a subject through someone else,
right?
Your students, right?
Yeah.
So you're linking that, and you have back and forth, and it's a different. I'm not saying it's better than other. I'm saying what it feels, in a way, the difference in the connection of what you do, whether that is teaching or in the creative realm of being musician.
Right. Two friends of ours, John Whitman, the Associate Vice President of Yamaha Artist Relations Group, and your buddy Greg Crane, the manager and A&R for Yamaha's drum set division. They shared a photo of you playing the drums, and we'll put that up on screen for everybody to see. And they asked, when people see you play, of course they're dazzled by the sounds and the innovation and the energy of your drum set playing, but they also noticed right away that you have a ordinary kitchen frying pan in place of one of the cymbals would be. They wanted to know, Where'd you come up with that, and how did that become a part of your regular drum set?
It's a very simple story, meaningful to me. When I was a child, I grew up in that modest neighborhood that I'm talking about. There was a lot of rumba, and the comparsas, the conga style of music that were later played in the carnivals, they used to actually rehearse parading in front of my house.
Yeah. I think in one interview you said they even sometimes would go in your house.
Yeah, they go. No, I was the one that throw myself out there. My mom used to get really nervous because I was a kid.
Yeah.
And as soon as she heard like the rehearsal start and they were going to parade inside in front of my house, she knew I was going to get lost.
Oh yeah.
She knew at some point that door it was going to be open and I was going out after them.
Yeah.
One of the instruments inside of that ensemble is a set of 2 frying pans, smaller frying pans.
Oh yeah.
And they have a very specific rhythm, which is like, in this case, it's like chocotoko tiki tiki tong tong tiki tiki chocotoko tin tiki tong tong tiki tiki chocoloco tiki tiki tong tong tiki tiki chocotong tiki tiki chocotoko tiki tiki tong tong tiki tiki. Anyways, this is 2 frying pans, very dry sound.
Yeah.
In relationship to the sound of the frying pan that I use. The carnival frying pans in a piece of wood, and that piece of wood you tied it to your waist so that you can actually walk with it.
Yeah.
Every instrument needs to be walkable because it's funfair. Yeah. It's like a walking, parade.
Yeah.
So this is one of the instruments that I really enjoyed because it's just like fulfill that kind of cycle of the instruments not being separated from the actual ordinary life.
Yeah.
This specific frying pan that I have now, that I've been using for 15, 20 years already, is a bigger frying pan. It's actually a frying pan that I used to get in Chinatown in New York.
Okay, yeah.
And that I went back to the place. The place doesn't exist anymore. So I have the last prototype that I have from there. This one is different. This one is bigger. It has a much more open sound. It has that what I love about it. It has that street sound, the street sound thing that even the cowbell doesn't have. The cowbell has already a very intentional sound made out of an idea of commercial or a structured thing. Sure. It's not something that came from below the cowbell. It's like something that is produced already. But this one is street sound, and if I play it with mallets, they actually have a sound as a gong.
It can ring.
Yeah, it has a very resonant sound as well. Yeah. So I use it many times, and you can hear it in some of my songs. Yeah. Especially like softer songs that I play with mallets. Sometimes I play the frying pan as a gong kind of thing. Yeah. So it has a multi, sonic purpose in a way. And I love it. I love it's fun. People always ask me, what is that thing? And
it's very visual.
But in Cuba, and not only in Cuba, I actually in Brazil they also use a frying pan inside of their carnival music as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The little single egg one.
Yeah.
I think I had one of those in California. That's amazing. So I had a couple things that I saved here that I wanted to just show you for the close of the interview and get your shoot from the hip. It's kind of the lightning round shoot from the hip reaction. So it's you take a look and you give me a quick no thought reaction. It's not no thought. It's a quick off the cuff reaction.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So this is the first one.
I just want to practice and play concerts for a living. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, it's 2026. This is the modern age. You can't just practice all day and expect to have a career. You have to put yourself out there.
Okay, how do I do that?
Social media.
Oh my god, I do not want to spend all my time on social media instead of actually practicing.
Yeah, but you'll be practicing for what? No one will even know who you are.
Okay, but don't you think if I spend all my time on social media, it'll take time away from actually honing my craft?
Yeah.
So then I won't be good at the cello, and that won't be good for my career either.
Sure.
Okay, so either I practice all day and get really good at the cello, but no one knows who I am, so I won't have a career, Or I spend all my time on social media and everyone knows who I am, but I won't have had any time to practice and actually get good, and I won't have a career either.
You have to do both.
Fine. So like, post a clip of me playing, right?
Snooze fest.
What?
Boring. Gross.
That's not nice.
Boring. You have to post something people want to watch.
What does that mean? In order for people to know me as a cellist, I have to post a clip of me doing something other than being a cellist?
Look, people like funny. They like punchy. They like trendy. They like ironic.
Ironic, like what?
Well, I have an idea. What if you post about this dilemma about whether or not to post on social media?
What? That's lame.
What if you're doing it right now?
Am I?
I think every musician that is kind of transitioning from the period of not having social media into having social media has, definitely going through the same way of thinking and the same, kind of like back and forth in your brain, trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But at this moment, I think it's a matter of balance.
Right. Mm-hmm. Irony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in one of your interviews, you said that nobody has ever listened to music because of how it was written.
Mm-hmm. Nobody is into music because of the way it's written.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What am I supposed to say about that? No, well, I this is a very
Might be the only exception to the rule.
well, no, I don't think it's an exception of the rule. I think in this case you're using the powerful tool of notating to develop something. But my statement about it was a little bit away from this example, which is I've never seen anyone into music because the way it's written.
I understand where you're coming from. Like almost like nobody loves a story because it was written in beautiful handwriting.
Or basically, I've never seen anyone that I've asked, students or friends of mine,
Yeah.
that they say, oh yeah, I am into music because once I saw a music score, even if I didn't know what it was, I saw a music score and I really like it visually. So the whole point that I'm trying to make is that music is sound, even though you might use the tools like this, like the canon, Johann Sebastian Bach canon. You can use that as a medium to develop a vocabulary or a subject in music. I do it too. I've created rhythmic palindromes, which are, a similar kind of way of playfulness with the same material in both directions and getting the same results in a way. I've done that, but I've never seen a musician, when you're talking about a musician, generally, you're talking about someone that have fell in love with a sound, which is the result and what it distincts the sonic experience of music versus the visual experience of looking at notation. And what happened is that I'm teaching the students to not rely in the notation to understand that notation is not music. Yes. Music is what you make out of that notation.
Without the pure focus on the sound and the feeling and the emotion of music, there would be no, and just purely on, penmanship and technique and theoretical documentation, there would be no Stevie Wonder, right? The guy's never read a note in his life, right?
No, there would be not creativity in the subject of music as a consequence of sound. You can have music as a consequence of a visualization, and you can call it whatever it is. But even when you have composers, like you have an idea, and you don't have any music instruments to use at that moment for that musical idea to be, and you write it down, even in those instances, your relationship is with sound. Like you're imagining the sound, so you write it.
It brings up an interesting point. Like, obviously technology develops in a certain way, but it makes me wonder now, by that path of thought, if we were to have somehow, as humans, invented recorders before, sound recording devices before we invented writing and notation, would our entire history of music all just be recorded then?
Probably so. Maybe. On one side of the story, we will have the opportunity to have heard Johann Sebastian Bach and Chopin playing his music. We don't have none of that.
Right.
But on the other side, we have to reproduce that so many times in a sense of, and then we will not have that much of a gap of interpretation. What the beauty of notation versus sound is that there is a gap of interpretation between one and the other, because they are two different sources. The notation is not exact, and if it goes into the realm of, or let's say that it goes into the exact way that you want it to be, because it's actually used through sequences and recording, getting into a MIDI, you know what I'm saying? So that's, at the end of the run, music is a tool to connect. You can actually play music without connecting.
Connecting to what?
To connecting to someone else, or to connect to the ears. This is the difference between playing in a restaurant as a background, that nobody wants to hear you. They want to talk, and they want to have a music in the background. You know what I'm saying? The important thing is our talk. It's not your music. You know what I'm saying? And you need to sound like that. If you bring in too much attention, then you're not a good musician for that job. At the beginning, every student, they sound like a restaurant musician. I'm doing this, and even if I'm doing good,
they're doing what they think they're supposed to do.
Exactly what they're supposed to be, to fulfill the expectation of just being heard up to this degree.
Yeah, almost like trying to pass a test.
Exactly.
Exactly. This much approval.
But the arts is what it breaks all of that. Being an artist is breaking the expectation, and is breaking the level of attention, and the importance of the message that you're doing. Is not using music to serve as a secondary, as a secondary role into something else. And believe me, I've done that kind of music. I've written music for dance, which the main purpose is the dance. It's not the music. So the music is in serve of that. But that's a complete different relationship than the one that we mentioned earlier. You see? So anyways, this is all, I don't know. It's just, as I like to say, food for thought. It's very important, because it kind of like, it makes you think about the values that we as musicians receive from sound. Why do I can listen to two different musicians playing the same piece of music, and I like this one 150%, and I like this one 30%. What is the difference between these two? In my case, I get this person, the 100 or the 150%. I get it. I think I have a feeling and I have a connection with the sound, with the way he expresses the interpretation of it, that it makes me even forget who I am. This is the beauty of art, that you get lost in it. You get lost at that moment. It's like when you go into, when you actually, this is the power of the art, to get lost in the experience. Whether that is cooking, eating, a good chef makes you, when you're trying these things, that you forget who you are.
Right. You are that dish. You're that dish.
He makes you being 100% at that moment experiencing that. And this is in all arts. And this doesn't happen, if you have a background music. And I'm not saying, musicians should not do that. I'm not talking about this kind of thing. I'm talking about the difference of function and the level of connection that arts and music in particular can really bring the experience into a complete different realm,
Nothing else needs to be said about that. Those transformative moments are larger than life themselves. So I was actually surprised when you were announcing your book last year that you had mentioned that you took not only I'm not surprised that you took the initiative to write the material itself and edit it and put it together. I'm actually not surprised that you decided to publish it yourself either, knowing your track record and your devotion to, pushing your own craft to the world. But what I was pretty surprised to hear was that you decided to edit all the videos of you demonstrating the exercises from the books. Are you still working in video editing on upcoming projects?
No, at this moment. That was a very challenging time for me because I had a deadline that I put in myself. This is entrepreneurship. I put my own.
Now or never.
I put a deadline, which I step on it. I didn't meet the deadline. That's why I knew I needed to get my hands on in order to finish the editing of the videos, because I had in the last book, this is the third book, and goes through. Especially for this one, my first one, I had Makoto Matsuo. Is a great friend of mine. He's actually one of the people that have filmed me for the past 20 years. That's right. He recorded the videos and he did the editing, and I told him, which tracks were going, but he did that. But in this case, in my third book, I had much more examples. I had like 500 and something examples in the whole book, and I had a student of mine who I started realizing that it was a lot of work for him. So I actually got another student involved, and that wasn't enough time-wise to make it happen for the deadline. Okay. So I had to get in and work at least for 2.5, 3 months straight, big chunks of time. Yep. I actually lost a lot of sight view because after the editing of that in the computer plus the book itself, I started wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't need glasses.
I went through the exact same thing, during COVID, when there was nothing to do, and I ended up just looking at, different funding options, because we didn't, we wanted to make sure that everybody on our team was still employed and eating. So I took it upon myself. I said, usually it's the creative projects that keep our company alive, but right now we need to find a completely new method and strategy. And I was just in front of the computer like 18 hours a day. I'd never done that before. And it took a permanent toll on my eyes, and it's not been the same. It's more sensitive, and it's just, it's not, I don't know if I would do it differently if I had the chance to do it again, because I'm very proud of that moment that we've kept everybody together now for over 10 years, and the team is tight, and we trust each other in a different way now, but I do notice a permanent change.
Oh, big time. It takes a toll. Like everything, my entrepreneur, skills, if you may say.
Yeah, your determination.
My determination is
your vision for strategy.
I once was talking to someone about this, and the best answer that I could bring, out of that. He say, but why, you have actually released all of your albums. You have 10 albums of your own. You have released all of them in Dafnis on Music. Then you have your books. Then, you sell, I sell, I have like merchandise, And I say, listen, I'm saying this ironically, very ironically. I don't need anyone to make myself poor. I can do that very well. So,
oh my God, yeah.
If no one is interested to do it,
still gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And we see the consequences of it. I'm not waiting for anyone to notice me. And this is something that I give to my students and a lot of people that, they kind of need to know the real truth about behind all of this that we do. Man, if you have a dream, go for it. If you believe in yourself, go for it. Don't wait. I've never waited for anyone to do anything for me. Nothing. In terms of my dreams and what I want to do, no, even if I depend in someone and I see that it's vague and stuff, it's like, oh, I appreciate you, but I'd rather do it myself than wait for your slowness or your whatever it is.
Or the possibility of you not doing it.
Yes, because I hate, one of the things that I hate the most is dependency in the in the unpredictable. The dependency. I know the unpredictable exists, but be depending upon, meaning like being depending on someone that I have a feeling that is not going to meet the standards and so on. It's like, no, I don't need more aggravations. I can do that very well. That's the whole point.
That's a lot to unpack there. I think what we're going to probably have to do is chop this into 2 episodes.
All right.
Which is awesome. Then we'll have 2 months of Dafnis Prieto on Upgrade Me, which I'm 100% on board with. But what I'm seeing here is that there is obviously grit, there's obviously talent, there's nature, there's nurture, there's timing and luck, but there's also just the opportunity of freak happenstance and the chance that there are freaks of nature who could write a canon that works forwards and backwards and simultaneously. And in that realm of freaks of nature, I think you are perfectly square in the middle and at home, my friend. If there ever is a Dafnis Prieto in our lifetime or ever again in the universe, I would be very surprised. So thank you so much for being here and inspiring our audience. I know that with all your computer time and all your editing, that just like me, your eyes are starting to wear on you and fail you at times. We are not sponsored, but I have found these to be very helpful in times when your eyes are really starting to wear down. And what they are is they're Japanese steam masks that you can wear for 15 minutes. And it actually refreshes your eyes really well.
Is that right?
So
I'm going to try it.
There you go, brother.
I need this. Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming through. You're always welcome anywhere I am. We're never far away, so please stay in touch.
It's called Meg Rhythm.
Exactly. Yeah. Because megane in Japanese is eyes and glasses. Oh. So meg, I don't know, they just thought it'd be cool to make it rhythm, but there you go. It's perfect.
The rhythm part is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
So we'll put some info and links to your materials and where to stay in touch with you. But thanks everybody, and we'll see you on a future episode. Dafnis Prieto.
Thank you, Dana.